Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly alongside you on this Tuesday edition of the program. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Plenty to get to on the show today. Titans getting ready for week 3 against the Colts. What needs to improve around Cam Ward? We'll get into that. Does this feel like a must-win game for Brian Callahan at 0-2? And we'll also look around the NFL a little bit. 10 2-0 teams, 10 0-2 teams. Who is a little overrated? Who's going to make a run after a slow start? We'll get into all of that throughout the show. Nick Frazier, thanks for coming on. We got our golden caramel coffees this morning.
It's great.
It's a good start to the day.
Hey, life's good now. We're back,
We are.
I think that's the blood, that fuels us today.
We're almost a week into having the golden caramel coffee back, and I've got to say, life has been better since it's returned to the cabinet up there. It's going to be a tough day when I come in and realize that we're out, and I have to go back to regular coffee.
There's just a glow about you. I don't know if it's the golden caramel. I don't know, man.
I feel like a different person when I've got the caramel coffee going. So, been a good start to the day. We will get into the Titans coming up in just a minute, but I did want to start with the Monday Night Football doubleheader last night, and we'll start with game number 1. Heck of a game between the Bucs and Texans, and the Texans are now 0-2. Baker Mayfield did just enough down the stretch. I will say, if they did lose that game, the Bucs, Todd Bowles and the special teams coordinator would have had a lot of answers, or a lot of questions to answer, with the special teams coordinator getting a punt blocked, then letting a huge return happen a couple of plays later, and then Todd Bowles just refusing to call timeouts on that last drive. It ended up working out. They left the Texans with no time, but really strange clock management from Todd Bowles last night.
Yeah, I don't know what the whole timeout thing. I don't know if he was worried that if they'd scored too fast and that there'd be too much time left on the clock. I really don't know. That's what confused me the most, because Houston, I thought, scored too early. They scored before the 2-minute warning.
Yeah.
So I gave, Tampa 4 opportunities there, and you're just thinking, what are they doing? I think it was poor clock management on both sides of the last 2 minutes.
Right. Nick Chubb running that in from 25 yards out honestly may have been one of the better outcomes in that spot for the Buccaneers. They gave them enough time to go down the field. Bucs score. They are 2-0. Houston falls to 0-2. So that was a great game. Game 2 of the doubleheader wasn't all that interesting. 20-9, the Chargers beat the Raiders. Quentin Johnston starting to look like the TCU Quentin Johnston. He had another long touchdown last night. But the biggest thing that came out of the late game last night was Peter Schrager's report on Tom Brady being in the coach's booth. Parker, do we have this ready? Let's take a listen to Peter Schrager talking about Tom Brady's involvement with the Las Vegas Raiders.
We've got a special member of the Raiders ownership group here today, and that's Tom Brady, who is in the house and is with the coach's box tonight. I was wondering how much Brady really had an involvement with this team. We hear so much about Brady as the owner. Chip Kelly told us that he talks to Brady 2 to 3 times a week. They go through film, they go through the game plan, and Brady is a luxury for the coaches. Who else has an owner who's actually been there and done that?
5% stake.
That's an amazing sight right there.
Now, Chip Kessie uses them as a resource every single week.
Yep, why wouldn't you?
They think it's a Hampton. Herbert launches downfield. Back shoulder throw. Trying to get it to Quentin Johnston. Really had a breakout game against the Chiefs. Luke Kelly broke it up. There's Brady, top row. Not many games he's able to attend because of his Sunday duties on Fox.
Think about the advantage. Chip Kelly saying 2 to 3 times a week, I could call Tom Brady, hey, what do I do in double A gap pressure versus this defensive coordinator? Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator of the Raiders, talked about in the first preseason game, they struggled to tackle. Brady sent him a text, figure it out fast. So it seems he's very involved.
So there you go. That was the broadcast last night on ESPN. Dan Orlovsky, Chris Fowler, Peter Schrager talking about how involved Tom Brady is in not just the team and the organization, but the game planning process. That Chip Kelly talks to him 2 to 3 times a week, and you've got Tom Brady sitting in the coach's box with a headset on during the game.
In a full suit.
This is ridiculous that he is allowed to be a part of production meetings and be in practices, getting ready for these Fox games, and still be involved in the game planning process for the Las Vegas Raiders. You mentioned before we went on air that you think ESPN might have messed up broadcasting this out there, how involved Tom Brady is. But how does the NFL allow this? Like, how is he allowed to be this involved with the Raiders and be a minority owner with the Raiders and still be able to talk to coaches, players, watch practice of all the other teams when it could seriously be a competitive advantage for the Raiders moving forward?
And I think it is. I mean, you mentioned going to practices and so forth. I don't know. Do you remember last season or the season before when Brady became the minority owner? And along with that was with Fox. And Fox said, oh, you can't go to any of the production meetings. You can't do any of this.
Right.
And the NFL basically rewrote their rules and said, oh, no, you can do this. You can do that. But they did it quietly, like under the rug type thing. And that's why I think ESPN probably shouldn't have panned the camera to him and talked about him too much, because it seemed like ESPN was, I guess, trying to exploit it a little bit, but not to the full extent, because Orlovsky, Louis Riddick, Chris Fowler, they kind of were talking about it, but not directly, if that makes sense. Obviously, Orlovsky said 2 to 3 times a week, talks to Chip Kelly, but minus that, they're like, wow, he's up there. They're like almost shocked. And they're like, wow, he's up there. They're talking.
And we had the conversation when the news came out that Brady would be allowed to be in production meetings and do all of the things that a usual broadcaster does, that even before we knew how involved he was in game planning, that's kind of ridiculous. Like, there's a clear conflict of interest there for Tom Brady. And I think it was a Bears reporter who put it out last night that Tom Brady is calling the Bears game next week. And then guess who plays the Bears in week 4? The Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he is going to get a full-on scouting report, going and watching practice and talking to all the players. I hope they tell him nothing the rest of the year. Like, I hope that all the coaches and players on these teams realize how ridiculous this is, that he's even allowed to be in these meetings, and just tell them nothing. And eventually it's going to get to the point where Brady's going to have to make a decision of like, hey, I'm going to be a bad broadcaster if I keep doing these production meetings because I'm getting told lies. And they should tell him lies, because it's ridiculous that he is allowed to be in these meetings.
Yeah, and I think it was last night after the game, Pete Carroll was asked by a reporter about offensive coordinator Chip Kelly talking to Tom Brady 3 times a week, quote, not accurate. So I don't know what that's about. I don't know if he's trying to cover something up, but something that the puzzle pieces are not matching up here.
I mean, I'm sure maybe the Raiders didn't want that much getting out. Like, I get what you're saying of like ESPN may have, I don't think they slipped up. Like, I think they meant to do that, obviously, but I think maybe they didn't realize that the Raiders weren't trying to make that as well known as they could. Like, Dan Orlovsky saying like that Chip Kelly's texting him about specific defensive coordinators and what they do. It's such a conflict of interest. And Tom Brady, I get it. He wants to do everything, and he's getting paid $100 million over however many years to be the top analyst for Fox.
And like 10 years, 375.
Yeah. Whatever his contract is, he's getting paid a lot of money to be their top analyst. And he wants to still be involved in trying to win a Super Bowl. And that's why he owns part of the Raiders. At some point, he's got to make a decision. Like, the NFL can't just pander to him because he's Tom Brady. It's so ridiculous that he's allowed to do this. And 6806 says it's no different than when they were filming practices when he was with the Patriots. That's Mitch in Bellevue. It's fair. Yeah, it's fair. Not the first time that Tom Brady has bent the rules.
It's almost like the NFL bent the rules for him, though. That's what it feels like.
Well, the good news is the Titans play the Raiders in a couple weeks, and the Titans are never going to be in a good enough game to play in one of Tom Brady's slots. So that's the good news, that he won't get the inside information there. But when I listen to that report, it's like they're telling on themselves. I'm like, what? Why are we running this? You're basically saying that you have a clear conflict of interest every time you go into these meetings. The NFL needs to do the right thing and say Tom Brady's not allowed in these production meetings anymore. He's not allowed to go to practice. And if Tom Brady wants to keep doing both, he has to do it with the disadvantage of not being able to do this stuff. Like, that is his choice to be a minority owner. They have to make sure that the integrity of the game is everything to the NFL. And that's why you see all the gambling rules and the suspensions of even if you're betting on the NBA, but you're doing it on team property, you get suspended. The integrity of the game is that important to the NFL. You have a blatant, clear conflict of interest, and you're allowing it to happen. I think the NFL should come out this week and say, yeah, Tom Brady's not allowed in these meetings anymore.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, you have to choose either you want to be a minority owner or in production, because I don't know if you saw Tom Brady's game. I think it was Dallas versus the Giants. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. No. They did Dallas, and who did they play week 1?
Whatever it was this past Sunday.
This past week, he did Eagles Chiefs.
Excuse me. Yeah. It was Gronkowski and Brady. It was just weird. It was almost like in the production meeting, they were like force feeding questions to Tom. And that's how it was going to be after the game, because it felt disingenuous. Like it's almost like his production meetings are not there. It is up on the TV.
We got First Take on. They're talking about it right now. Like
it's an issue.
I don't know. Conspiracy theory time. ESPN wants to get Tom Brady kicked off of Fox broadcasts because they're like, hey, look, one of our competitors is bending the rules for this minority owner.
Not opposed to that.
Complete conspiracy theory. I'm sure that Peter Schrager was just like, hey, this is it's rare to have a player of that caliber with that much knowledge who gets to help with your game plan. Like, sure, it's an advantage for the Raiders to have Tom Brady as part of their ownership group, but it's also an advantage that he gets to go behind the scenes for all of these other teams. And even like, I don't know. Well, how about this? The Raiders play the Chiefs twice this year.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Brady just went to Kansas City and talked with all the Chiefs players and coaches. I'm sure that some of the stuff he learned could help the Raiders. Like it cannot keep happening.
Yeah. And with his track record of being with the Patriots and the cheating scandals and all that, how can you trust the guy fully to say, oh, I'm not going to say this to XYZ person or Pete Carroll? Like, I look at the whole Tom Brady situation. Like, I don't know if you saw this, but he made a big news about how he's coming out of retirement for a flag football game in Saudi Arabia. Like, you're getting paid $150 million for that. Go do that if you want to.
Yeah.
If you want to be a minority owner, be a minority owner. I think he should be some form of a coach, like a quarterback's coach or a offensive coordinator. Like, you have to start picking lanes here.
Right. He has to pick what he wants to do with his future. And I think he wants to be a minority owner. And if he wants to do that, great, go do that. But you can't be around all 31 other teams and get to talk to their players and coaches behind the scenes, because even if he thinks, oh, well, I'm not going to purposefully give any inside information, subliminally, there's going to be some things of like, oh, well, they told me this. And I just hope that no one's telling him anything. Like, if that's how you want to do it, Tom Brady, then expect coaches and players to tell you absolutely nothing. And guess who that hurts? That hurts Kevin Burkhardt. That hurts the rest of that crew, because they're not going to be getting the information that you typically would in those production meetings, which, as somebody who's done play-by-play broadcasts, like obviously not at the NFL level, but when I do Vanderbilt soccer last week, or back in college when I did Virginia Tech volleyball, most of what I used on the broadcast came from those coaches' calls of like asking questions and getting information. And, if there was an injury or something, they'd let us know, and who's going to be filling in. Like, it's really important stuff for these broadcast teams. And not only is Tom Brady not going to get it, but they're not going to tell anything to anybody else, because it's a clear conflict of interest. It's ridiculous. Wanted to start the show with that because I could not believe just how openly they came out and were like, yeah, Tom Brady talks to the offensive coordinator 2 to 3 times a week while he's in Kansas City getting ready for the Chiefs game. Can't happen.
Look, if they can go back and see some of his phone calls, like if they can kind of geolocate those through like cell towers, I don't know if it'd get that intrigued and intense to it, but if they were to do that and the NFL were to investigate it, I think there might be some fishy stuff there.
I think the NFL just need to pull it back, go back to what it was last year. Tom Brady's not allowed in production meetings. That should be what it is. I don't think they're going to do it, because it seems like Tom Brady is above the law, at least at this point. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you have any thoughts, questions, we'd love to hear from you. Our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. Let's get into the Titans coming up next. Cam Ward, I think by all accounts, has looked solid in his first 2 starts. I think he is lived up to expectations. He's made plays, has not thrown an interception yet, but everything around him has not been all that great. What needs to improve the most around Cam Ward? We'll get into that coming up next. We are off and running on this Tuesday morning. Next man up here on 102.5 The Game. Later today on ESPN 94.9 The Fan, the Nashville Sounds take on the Louisville Bats. First pitch is at 5:35. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at thegamenashville.com. Sounds baseball on ESPN 94.9 The Fan is presented by Twin Peaks and Family Leisure. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Eddie in California on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com says, good morning, guys. No TD today. TD is going to be on Thursdays moving forward. So Thursday, we will have TD for the full show. The Titans moving around some of their media schedule. We had to shift TD. So Thursday, TD will be in from 9 to noon. Excited for that. Let's get into the Titans here. Titans 0-2, 33-19 loss to the Rams on Sunday. Cam Ward, he's the focal point of this season. Like, the wins and losses are going to come and go. Like, A 3-win season, a 6-win season, that matters for Brian Callahan. It doesn't matter as much for Cam Ward. You'd like to see him win some games, but it's all about seeing the development and the growth. And I think he's looked good through the first 2 games. There's stuff to improve upon, but I think he's looked good. Everything else around him on the offense has not been all that good. The play calling has been questionable at best. The offensive line has allowed him to be sacked 11 times, and Cam Ward is responsible for a couple of those, held the ball too long. And the receivers, pretty much outside of Alec Iamaner, have left a lot to be desired as well. My question for you, Nick Frazier, what needs to get better the fastest? Like Cam Ward, with everything bad going on around him, has still found a way to show some progress, some flashes. But what could help him the most if it's able to improve quickly this week?
That's a great question. I would say as a scapegoat answer, I'd say, oh, the offensive line needs to protect better. Oh, the wide receivers need to catch the ball, whatever it is. I think Cam Ward just needs to throw the ball away quicker. Like if something's not there through 1 or 2 read progressions, throw it away. Because then that kind of cuts down on your sacks. Sure, it doesn't prolong the play where you can be as creative as you are, as Cam Ward was with that Alec Iamaner touchdown. But besides that, if he can go through his reads, and maybe the wide receivers need to get out of their routes quicker. Maybe that's something they have to look at. I don't know. But that's something I would look at for Cam Ward, is just go through the reads, and if they're not there, just toss it out, man.
It's all been bad. Yeah. Like Calvin Ridley has not done enough. He wasn't as blatantly bad on Sunday, and like the quote unquote drop that he had on 3rd down, like, yeah, that's a ball that you hope that your number 1 wide receiver would catch. But Emmanuel Forbes made a pretty nice play punching that ball out. Like that was not an easy catch to hold on to with the way the defender played it. So give him a break on that. But overall, through 2 weeks, Calvin Ridley has not been good enough. And we'll talk about that a little more later on. I think Brian Callahan needs to be better the fastest. Like the play calling, there's been times it's been good. I really liked some of the plays where they got him on the move on Sunday. Like you saw the rollout, Calvin Ridley crossing, and he was able to find him. He missed the one to Chimdike a little bit later on in the game. I just think Brian Callahan needs to find a rhythm and a flow in his play calling that he hasn't found yet. Like the feel for the situations in the game just isn't there right now for Brian Callahan. And I thought last year there were times when it was good. Like I didn't think the play calling was atrocious last year. He had much bigger problems than play calling in his first year as a head coach. This year, though, I think the play calling it's not putting Cam Ward in the best situations. They're getting behind the sticks, and I think that's a big issue. Maybe it is because of the offensive line. And that last year we saw a lot of Brian Callahan calling plays kind of scared of his offensive line. And I'm wondering if maybe that's coming around again, especially with J.C. Latham hurt. Cam Ward's been sacked 11 times already through 2 weeks. I'm wondering if maybe it's gotten to the point where Brian Callahan feels like he can't open up the playbook because there's just no time to protect Cam Ward.
Yeah, that's a possibility. You mentioned Chimdike just a bit ago. I think if Callahan, and talk about play calling as well, Callahan needs to use more of those jet sweeps with DK. I think it stretches the game out a little bit. It keeps the defense on their toes, keeps the defense honest. It makes it not as predictable. And from that point, you're able to kind of maybe, I don't know, run the ball at a different angle, or maybe, I don't know, throw the ball, I'd say more often than not. It just, the predictability level is not as high. So I think if you can do that, I think that's a big plus. But you're right. Callahan, his play calling, it's almost like you're looking at the call sheet and you're sticking to plays 1 through 6 on this drive. You have to deviate and go, how about play 12? Let's go here. Like, he's not reading the game. He's reading the page.
Yeah. And early on, the drives have actually not been horrible. Like, and this was an issue last year of some of the scripted drives ended up being pretty good. Like the Titans moved the ball early on, and then Brian Callahan, when he has to make these decisions on the fly, it doesn't always seem to work. And the end of the first half sequence this week, I understand why he played it conservative. Like I really do, because he got eviscerated for being too aggressive. But you also have to understand the difference in those situations of one of those, you're at your own 7 and you got to go the length of the field. to even get in field goal range. Like, you got to go 50 yards to get into field goal range. The other, you just had a ridiculous touchdown from your quarterback. Cody Barton picks off Matthew Stafford, and you're already basically in field goal range with 2 timeouts. Like, there's a difference in those situations. And that's kind of what I'm talking about with Brian Callahan, just not having a feel for these offensive situations and the flow of the game, where that's a spot where, yeah, maybe you don't go completely all out and get yourself thrown out of field goal range, but take one shot. Just see what Cam Ward can do. He just made 2 unbelievable throws to Alec Iamaner on the last drive. You've got all the momentum. You're heading into the locker room. Like, take one shot. And he didn't. He ran it a couple of times, set up the field goal. I get it. After last week, when the entire city was going after him for how horrible the decision was to be aggressive at the end of the half, I get maybe being a little gun shy in that situation, but that's why, like, you have to understand these different situations and make decisions based on that, not based on what happened last week.
Right. And another point to that, you mentioned going into halftime. I think something that needs to improve for this Titans team as a whole, the second half conditioning. This team is a first half team. They can't finish out games. It seems like they lose their mojo when they get into the second half. I don't know if it's Brian Callahan's play calling when it comes to the second half, or guys are just gassed. I mean, I kind of said this before the season, but you look at this Titans defense, it's not young for the most part. I mean, Arden Key.
You have some young pieces,
but majority of those guys are more vets, which is a good thing for the development of the younger pieces. But when it comes to the stamina and to finish out games, you don't have the rotation there.
Well, and I think that's what you saw with L'Jarius Sneed at the end of that game. He looked good. I really liked what I saw from L'Jarius Sneed on Sunday. I think that is the best game he's played as a Titan. But I think you did see he wasn't quite in full-on football shape yet. And it was strange how they went from, L'Jarius Sneed's on a hard 20-snap pitch count, and, like, we're not going to play him the whole second half, to he's going to play 92% of the snaps in 95-degree heat on Sunday. And I think he ran out of gas, and Devontae Adams took advantage of that towards the end. Overall, I thought he played well, but I agree. I think the Titans right now aren't talented enough, and I don't think they're well coached enough to play with these teams for a full 60 minutes. They've proven they can play with them for 35, 45 minutes, but they ran out of gas. And Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, they out-talented the Titans down the stretch. And that's going to happen this year. But you'd like to see in a game like this against the Colts this week that you can play with a team like that. I know they're 2-0, but I don't think they're as talented as the Rams. They did beat the Broncos. I would say,
hold your horses on that.
Right.
Pun intended, I guess.
Yeah,
because
there you go.
The Broncos, even though they beat the Titans and they lose to the Colts, I don't think they're that good of a team. I think Sean Payton's just that good of a play caller. He's able to kind of finagle the game a little bit.
Well, and Bo Nix has not been good through the first couple of weeks. Daniel Jones has. Robbie Stanley guaranteed a Titans win. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on this hour of, do the Titans need a win? Like, is this a must-win game for Brian Callahan? Maybe not for the team, because, again, the expectations for the team, I don't know if there are any must-win games on the schedule for Cam Ward or anything. But for Brian Callahan saving his job, this might be a must-win. We'll get into that coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday morning. Plenty more to get to with the Titans. We'll look across the NFL. Joe Burrow out for 3 months. We'll look into that as well. Plenty more to come here on Next Man Up, 102.5 The Game.
all those, so many on the weekends, all the playoff games.
That was Cam Ward talking about staying in front of the sticks. I can't wait to hear what he's got for us this week. One of the greatest traditions across the NFL. Cook them and eat their stripes. That was the Bengals one. I'm excited to see what he's got for the Titans this week. We'll have to play the new one when it comes out Thursday or whenever he releases those. Colts Titans coming up on Sunday.
Gotta give him good props for the creativity.
Noon kick. Yeah, that was good. Cam Ward talking about getting behind the sticks, and that's been an issue for the Titans is that, you watch that game on Sunday, and pretty much all of the third downs the Rams had were 3rd and 5 or less. And the Titans got stuck in 3rd and 8 or more way too much. And that's the offensive line. It's also play calling. Cam Ward did say after the game on Sunday that Brian Callahan's only called 2 games for him, and he hopes he calls a lot more. But I'm wondering if this just is easier to just rip the Band-Aid off and move on. But there's also the worry of, you always talk about it, that does changing the play caller mid-season and then probably adding a new one at the end of the year, does that stunt a quarterback's progression when he has to continue to learn new systems, new play callers, and new ways to play the game?
For Cam Ward, I don't think so. I mean, the guy's been in 4 or 5 different systems throughout college. Incarnate Word,
Washington
State,
yeah,
Miami, all those different places. I don't think it affects him because he's a good quarterback. I've mentioned this to Chase and Connor Parker multiple times. This guy does really good job at making different, adjustments at the offensive line. Before snaps, he does a good job.
He looks in control.
Yeah, he's in control of the game. I don't think ripping off the Band-Aid is going to affect him that much. I think he's handling himself as a true pro. Like you said, he hopes Callahan's going to call plays for him in the future. Like, if that's the case, go ahead. Like, rip the Band-Aid off. Because if Callahan's gone, more than likely Nick Holtz will be gone, and they, upgrade somebody else. Maybe Bill Hardegree stays. I don't know, but I think it's beneficial because what's there to lose?
Yeah, and I wonder who ends up being the play caller. Would it just be Nick Holtz? Or does Holtz go with Brian Callahan? Is it Hardegree? Mike McCoy could end up taking over as the head coach. Like, does he call plays? It all would be a mess. But I do wonder if it continues to look as bad as it's been, if pulling the plug early is better than just letting it sit like this and continuing to lose and continuing to make bad decisions, and maybe getting a fresh start for Cam Ward is better to do it earlier than later.
I think it is. I'm going to use a comparison to college football. I know it's probably not the best thing to do, but Billy Napier in Florida with DJ Lagway, people are kind of saying, oh, DJ Lagway is just throwing interceptions left and right. I kind of blame that on Billy Napier a little bit. The guidance from him as a play caller. I don't think Lagway is a terrible quarterback. I think his growth is being stunted by Billy Napier. So I'm thinking it's kind of the same situation with Brian Callahan with the lack of production in his play calling. I think it's stunting the growth a little bit of Cam Ward, but I think Cam's able to adjust to that.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Let's go to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Adam from Portland is on the line wanting to chime in on Callahan. Adam, good morning. Go ahead.
Well, Parker killed it, man. That's exactly right. Number one, if you swap the coordinators now, dude, he had 3 in college, and he got better every single time. If you could see it, saying Brian Callahan, he may get better as a head coach is like us saying, I hope Colt Anderson gets better as a special teams coordinator. The writing is on the wall, dude. We know exactly what he is. He's brick wallpaper. He's phony. He's a fraud. His dad's a fraud. Get them both out. you can't tell me one damn thing they've done that's good since they've been here. Nobody can, dude. Like, you could go, oh, he's helped Cam. No, he hasn't. He was a Heisman Trophy winner, and he can't stand in the pocket for 2 seconds. The whole reason he got the head coaching job, number one, nepotism. We all know that. Number two, he worked with some Hall of Fame players. Peyton Manning, Matthew Stafford. Did they need him? No. Joe Burrow. He almost got Joe Burrow killed, and the guy who he's learned from is currently that got Joe Burrow on the bench for 3 months because he can't protect him. So whatever this cool offense is that the Bengals have that they wanted so bad in Tennessee, it doesn't protect quarterbacks. So what are we doing, dude? Start over. Like, you can't fire enough people offense right now to help him. So these guys aren't catching passes, so his wide receivers coach sucks too. Like, I don't know, dude. Like, am I saying anything that's incorrect here? Like, start over completely on offense, except for Cam. Am I saying that right?
The only thing you said incorrect is that Cam Ward was a Heisman winner, but everything else,
Nick Frazier.
Everything else
finalist.
was correct.
He was a finalist.
He was a finalist.
That's what I meant.
But yes, no, I agree with you, Adam. It's a good call. Like, there has not been a redeeming quality for Brian Callahan through 19 games. And we went through it yesterday. A Titans Redditor out there put out a chart of Wisenhunt versus Callahan through 19 games. And it was almost identical. Really, the only big difference was that Callahan's teams have turned the ball over more. And, you know, Will Levis, Zach Mettenberger, whatever. Like, it's all kind of the same. I'm getting to the point where I think Brian Callahan he might be in must-win mode. And we'll talk about that next. Is Brian Callahan past the point of no return if he loses this game to the Colts on Sunday? I think so. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up here on 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. With you on this Tuesday. Titans 0-2, falling 33-19 to the Rams on Sunday, getting ready for the Colts coming up this weekend at Nissan Stadium. And we're asking the question, if Brian Callahan wants any chance to keep his job, does he have to win this game on Sunday?
I'm going to go with no.
Really?
Yeah. It's something I mentioned to you earlier before the show. I think if he plays young offensive linemen, because we talked about Zeitler and, maybe Ali Udo's not the answer for the time being, put in Brennan Crenshaw-Dixon, put in Jackson Slater. Like, if you put those young guys in, I think the pressure is still on Callahan. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's to the same degree. Like, say if the Titans improve this Sunday, but yet they still lose, and there's improvement because of that young line, I think the pressure's off just a tad bit.
I think you've got to get a win at some point. Like, you haven't won since Thanksgiving of last year. You got to see results at some point. Like, I get it. The roster's not very good.
Yeah.
But even though the Colts are 2-0, I don't know if their roster's all that good either. Like, Indiana Jones has played well for his first 2 weeks with the Colts, and they haven't punted. They have won games. So credit to the Colts, but I don't think the Colts are a world beater coming in here. Like, this isn't the Buffalo Bills coming in at 2-0. It's the Indianapolis Colts. I really do think the Titans should stack up decently well with this team. And if Brian Callahan wants to keep his job, I think you have to win this game. Because if you fall to 0-3, now you're heading on a 3-game road trip. And the Texans, they're 0-2 too. But watching Will Anderson last night against a backup tackle,
monster.
I really don't want to imagine what that would look like against Dan Moore, or if J.C. Latham's still hurt, whoever is playing right tackle for the Titans. It would not be pretty. The Cardinals are 2-0. The Raiders,
we see that, right?
The Raiders, Tom Brady is bugging conference rooms and getting all the inside information. I'm just kidding. But like, the odds of you winning 2 or more of those games on the road trip are not good. So if you lose Sunday, odds are you are coming back to Nashville to face Mike Vrabel and the Patriots at 1-5 or 0-6. And you're done at that point.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not, you have dug yourself past the point of no return. I think a win on Sunday is crucial. I think it is necessary. If Callahan loses on Sunday, unless something drastic changes over the next month, I think he's a dead man walking.
Let's just say if they do win this Sunday, right? And I think it's still the same outcome regardless if Vrabel and the Patriots come here and they win. I think that is imminent.
It's tough because
does history repeat itself?
Right, like, would Amy do that? Probably. Even though it would not look good for her, again, doing it where it looks so petty. Like, that's the issue, is the optics of it looks so petty to fire Brian Callahan after losing to his predecessor. But I think she would do it. I really do. If they are 1-6 after the Patriots game or 0-7 after the Patriots game, I don't think you have a choice. I really don't. And I don't think anyone would blame her at that point. I think he has at least until the Patriots game. I don't think you're going to fire him before the Patriots game. It's just too early. If they're 0-6 heading into it, maybe. I mean, maybe that's the way that Amy avoids having that look bad on her, is just get rid of him before Vrabel comes to town.
I think it's a double whammy.
But like, I think if they lose Sunday, I just don't see a path forward where Brian Callahan keeps his job. Now, I could be wrong. It all depends on the growth of this offense and Cam Ward, but it feels like if they lose a 9th game in a row on Sunday to a divisional opponent at home and then have to go on the road for 3 weeks, I don't see him making it to November as the head coach of this team.
I think if they lose on Sunday, Amy gives him the grace of that road trip. And then while they're on the road trip, they're just cleaning out his office, and he comes back, it's empty. Like, I think that's what's going to happen.
He comes back and his card doesn't work trying to get into the building.
He has the Jamal Adams thing.
Yeah,
just
the Jamal
after he's done eating his quiche.
Yeah, thank you. From their little tea party they have on Mondays. That's right.
Yeah, 7988 says, how much control do Chad and Mike have? Honestly, the statement, if they fire Callahan, might come from Chad Brinker, but Amy controls everything. Like, nothing's happening without Amy giving the go ahead. So I don't I don't think that Chad and Mike are making that decision. I think it's an Amy decision, even though they might say that it was a football decision for Chad and Mike.
You have opened up a little angry man inside of me because every time I hear the name Chad Brinker, his name, it should not have immunity. This guy needs to be out of the door as soon as Callahan's out the door. Like, he has the same level of hot seat, in my opinion, as Brian Callahan. And to that point, you look at Brian Callahan's resume. You also look at Chad Brinker's resume because he's the one that kind of hired all these guys. You have to look at it from that perspective. If he's the middleman, and I will say this, if Amy Adams Strunk fires Brian Callahan after the New England game, or let's say she doesn't fire him after the New England game, and he makes it that far and they're 1-6, that just tells me she's stalling because she doesn't want to fire Chad Brinker and Brian Callahan at the same time.
Yeah, it's a tough situation because I understand the idea of let Brian Callahan finish out the year, but I also get, like, if you know he's gone, there's no point in waiting around. So we'll see what Amy Adams Strunk decides to do. Like, there's no point in trying to project what she's going to do because she's shown that she's unpredictable. So I don't know when it's going to happen, but I will say I think if Callahan loses Sunday, it's a when, not an if. Like, I just don't see a path back. And again, he could prove me wrong and they could go on a 5-game winning streak or something like that. But the way it's gone, you're 3-16. The Titans haven't won back-to-back games in 3 years. Like, I think it's going to become more of a certainty if they lose on Sunday to the Colts.
Let me ask you one thing before we go to break. Do you think it's that important to have a guy in Chad Brinker to be the guy relaying the message to Mike Borgonzi and Brian Callahan? Do you think that position is necessary in the NFL?
Not really.
Then why have
I think that Amy maybe wanted to distance herself from the football decisions. I don't know why Chad Brinker was the choice. Clearly, he has gained some favor with her and gained some trust. But I think that's why we don't hear from Amy anymore, is because she has empowered Burke Nihill to be the business guy, and she's empowered Chad Brinker to be the football guy. And that's why I wonder if he's ever going to be the one at the front of the line to get blamed. I think there's going to be a point where it happens, but you would think he'd be the next one after Callahan, right? Like, if you're just looking at this rotating, revolving door of blame, last year it was Rand Carthon. The year before it was Mike Vrabel. This year it's Callahan. You would think next year would be Brinker, but I wonder if maybe if they do fire Callahan, they try and get everybody on the same page finally. Because the last few years, it's always been one guy they're not on the same playing field. And it's like, all right, well, Rand's the new guy, so we're firing Vrabel. All right, well, Callahan's the new guy, so we're firing Rand. Like, you got to get off of that at some point.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Brinker, I don't know if he's going to ever be the next guy up because it feels like he has Amy's ear. So it'll be interesting. 0388 says the fact that we're all talking about firing Callahan 2 games into the season is more proof he should have been fired last year. And yeah, you're right. Throughout the offseason, I was on the give Callahan a chance team, and I wanted to give Callahan a chance, and I feel like I did. But that first game was such a disaster that it already put him in hot seat territory if he wasn't already in that. And if they can't win football games, eventually he's going to run out of time. But I agree with you, 0388. Like, the story from Jeremy Fowler and Teron Davenport saying that the Titans seriously considered firing Brian Callahan, it really does, in hindsight, look like, yeah, they should have just cleaned house. They really should have. So, but what can you do now? And another texter, let's see. Mike in Lebanon says, we know the Titans will have a different coach next year. Go ahead and change now. Why wait? I gave him another chance, but I don't see it getting better with him as coach. Go ahead and fire him now. They're not going to do that because that looks bad on the team. It looks like they don't know what they're doing, which maybe they don't, but like it looks like that because they're like, why would you give him the whole offseason and fire him after 2 games? So they're not going to do it yet. I'd say the Patriots game that week is probably the first chance. I'd say the bye week is probably the deadline. If they don't fire him by the bye week, he's going to get the rest of the year. But that 3-week stretch from October 19th to like November 10th, like that stretch, that's where I think you could see Brian Callahan get fired. Sure. But I think if he loses this game this week, that might be the point of no return for Brian Callahan as the head coach of the Titans. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you have thoughts, you can text or call. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We will get back into the Titans later on in the show, but going to talk some NFL. Since 1970, 64% of 2-0 teams have made the playoffs. Only 10% of 0-2 teams have. You got 10 2-0 teams, 10 0-2 teams. We'll look through who might be able to make a run after a slow start and who has gotten off to a hot start that's going to fall back to earth at some point this year. Also, Joe Burrow going to miss 3 months. Can Nick Fraser's 15-2 Bengals stay alive despite missing their starting quarterback? We'll get into it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Fraser, Parker Kelly. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Second hour on this Tuesday. Next man up, 1025. The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Entering week 3 of the NFL season, and every year the conversation is had around teams that start 2-0, teams that start 0-2. So this hour, we're going to look at the 10-2-0 teams, the 10-0-2 teams, see who might have gotten out to a lucky start and falls back to earth, who got off to a slow start that could still make the playoffs. But first, I did want to touch on Joe Burrow and the turf toe injury, torn ligaments, going to miss 3 months. I know you were very high on the Bengals, Nick Frazier, when we did our predictions a couple of weeks ago. The Bengals are 2-0. Jake Browning looked pretty good down the stretch in that game against the Jaguars, and I believe he was 4-3 when Burrow missed time a couple years ago. Do we think the Bengals can stay afloat until Joe Burrow returns, which wouldn't be until the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season?
I think it's possible. Like we talked earlier about the Broncos being a beatable team. I mean, they take on the Vikings this Sunday, and Vikings are without J.J. McCarthy. So you got to look at that as a Carson Wentz game. And if I was just telling Parker in the break, maybe Kevin O'Connell resurges Carson Wentz's career by turning him into a serviceable quarterback again. I don't know. But I think it's on the table. I think they can kind of get by without Joe Burrow. Maybe they don't go 15-1, but it's besides the point. I think they can beat the Vikings. They beat the Broncos. I think they lose to the Lions and maybe the Packers. Steelers game will be a little tough. Jets game is doable, and then they get to the Bears November the 2nd, and yeah, then it does get a little dicey. So
it's a tough schedule for this Bengals team while Joe Burrow is gone. Let's say they said 3 months, so 3 months from Sunday would exactly be December 14th against the Ravens. That is Sunday, December 14th. So if Joe Burrow is able to return for the last 4 games of the year, to be in the playoff hunt, you'd guess they'd have to be 7-6 at that point, right around there, to have a chance to get into the playoffs, right around 500, maybe 6-7. They've got some tough games. Like you mentioned, the Lions, Packers, Ravens, Bills. It's not going to be easy. Broncos, but Browning has looked good when he's been out there. It's just tough for this Bengals team, and I wonder if Burrow's starting to fall behind the rest of those quarterbacks in the AFC, because it's clear he's just as talented as Mahomes and Allen and Jackson in that tier of when he's healthy and he's got a good team around him, he can beat anybody on any given Sunday. But he's falling behind because everything around him has not been equal to what those other guys have. The offensive line has basically been horrible since he's been there. The defense can never get it. Really cheaped out and lost both of their top 2 edge rushers this offseason. He always has good wide receivers. We'll give him that. He's had T. Higgins and Jamar Chase basically since he entered the league. But it's like the Bengals might be finding a way to ruin Joe Burrow. I saw somebody this week compare Burrow to Andrew Luck.
Yes.
And I wonder if maybe we're getting into that territory of like, hey, is Joe Burrow ever going to live up to the talent that he has, because he can't stay healthy and the team doesn't seem to want to surround him with talent?
You took the words right out of my mouth. I think he is the modern day Andrew Luck. And it's unfortunate because the Bengals, like you said, they get stuck in their ways. If they could just get a serviceable offensive line, I think this team is a Super Bowl caliber team. Like that's all they're missing is offensive line help, really. And it's unfortunate because they have the intangibles to really do something, and they don't want to help it out.
I mean, to see your second-year quarterback take you to the Super Bowl when he gets sacked 9 times in a playoff game, like I know it's, everybody having PTSD around Nashville right now, but to get to the Super Bowl in 2021 with that offensive line was so impressive. And they just haven't really done anything to invest. Like, I get they've paid T. Higgins, they've paid Jamar Chase, they've got those guys locked up, but they don't seem to want to go for it in Cincinnati. And you've got the pieces to go for it. You have the core to go for it, and they just haven't. You got to find a way to protect Joe Burrow. And every year it seems like we're talking about the offensive line is letting Joe Burrow get killed. We go back to the age-old meme graphic that came out when they were deciding whether they wanted Jamar Chase or Penei Sewell. It's Joe Burrow on the ground with anyone blocking, Jamar Chase standing wide open in the end zone, or Penei Sewell blocking for Joe Burrow, and you can find another wide receiver in the end zone. Maybe I get Jamar Chase the best wide receiver in the league.
Yeah.
But like, they haven't invested in the offensive line, and it continues to shoot them in the foot every single year.
Yeah, I look at the Bengals as a business-like organization, like Humpty Dumpty's on the middle of the wall, right? He's almost going to teeter off. He's not going to teeter on, whatever it may be. It's almost like if the Bengals season goes down the crapshoot, they're going to start offloading people just for like assets.
I mean,
I'm not saying like Jamar Chase or Joe Burrow or anybody like that, but like, some rotational guys.
I mean, they're well known as the cheapest organization in the league.
Yeah. You look at it as more of a profit than you do as a go all in type thing. So it's just about the mindset of the front office. It comes down to that.
You just look around the AFC and you see all these talented quarterbacks and these organizations that are putting them in situations to succeed. And like Patrick Mahomes maybe is different, but like he's got Andy Reid with him, and the offensive line's not always perfect, but Mahomes might be a little bit different. But Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, like they're in these really well-run organizations with good coaches, and the Bengals just can't seem to figure it out. I wonder if Zach Taylor maybe gets a pass because of the injury to Joe Burrow if they're not very good this year and they miss the playoffs again. But I wouldn't hate for the Bengals if they just started over and, clean house, bring in a new head coach, and see if you can go all in a little bit. Go get some offensive linemen and trade up to go get a guy who can protect Joe Burrow. Invest in your defense a little bit more. Like they could have extended Trey Hendrickson. Instead, they just gave him 1 year raise, and he's probably going to hit free agency next year. It's tough. It's tough to look over at the Bengals, and I'm looking at that schedule. I like Jake Browning. I don't know if Jake Browning can keep it afloat for 3 months while Joe Burrow's gone.
I mean, hey, Bengals, if you guys are in a playoff push later down the road, you guys want Kevin Zeitler? Well, that'd be all right. I'd be okay with that. If I'm a Titans fan, just offload Kevin Zeitler. He's here for what, 1 year, right?
Yeah.
Bye. Hasta luego.
Zeitler hasn't been great so far. I believe his PFF grade has been one of the lowest for the Titans. Again, I'm not a PFF guy, but if you're looking for just basic offensive line evaluation, I think he had a 55 this week.
Yeah.
Dan Moore was actually, I think, the second highest graded Titans offensive player. So I didn't think he played that well. That didn't match the eye test, but
I don't know where these numbers are adding up, but that ain't right.
And maybe it's just it is one of those things of when you notice a tackle, you remember the bad plays. Similar to the reaction around L'Jarius Sneed this week of like, people just remember him getting burnt by Devontae Adams, and that is the memory burned into their mind. They're like, L'Jarius Sneed played bad. Maybe that's where I was with Dan Moore of like, I saw him get burned a couple times around the edge, and I'm like, he had a bad game. Maybe he was better than I thought. But who knows?
I think you're spot on. No, you're okay. You're not over-exaggerating.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you have thoughts, you can text or call. One of my friends over at Vandy Women's Basketball is a Bengals fan, Chris Caskey. Shout out Chris Caskey. And he does want to remind us that they did sign Orlando Brown to be their left tackle after he won a Super Bowl with the Chiefs. So the Bengals, at the very least, did put some investment into the offensive line. So shout out Chris Caskey. He does a good job over there. 7988 says, was Peter number one in PFF? It was actually Alec Iamaner, I believe, was the top rated offensive player by PFF this week for the Titans.
As he should be.
That one checks out. The catch on the Ward touchdown gets a lot of the headlines. And especially because the Titans ran up to the line and had to run a play to make sure that didn't get reviewed. But that catch on the sideline was ridiculous. And I still don't know if he got his feet down. I'm still not 100% sure that he came down in bounds. Doesn't matter. Counts in the stat sheet. But that was a ridiculous catch by Alec Iamaner.
I don't want to say when he fell, I don't want to say his elbow hit. We're not going to bring that up again. But like he held it against his helmet and he was falling down. Like I think some other body part.
If they had taken a long look at it, I think they would, kind of like the Gunnar Helm review in Denver. I think they could have found some movement of the ball and they would have overturned it. But Titans did a good job. Cam Ward hurried him to the line. He threw an incomplete pass. Who cares? They scored a couple plays later. So
And again, that's a credit to Cam Ward,
Right.
not Brian Callahan.
The awareness from Cam Ward to say, yeah, they might review that. Let's get to the line.
Yeah.
Alec Imanner, we'll have more to say about him later. But yes, I believe he was the highest graded PFF player on offense for the Titans this past week. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. The Bengals are 2-0. We just talked about them. They have to turn to Jake Browning for the next 3 months. They are along with 9 other teams that are 2-0. Since 1970, 64% of 2-0 teams have made the playoffs. So you got 10, 6 or 7 of those teams are going to make the playoffs. Who maybe has overachieved to this point? I think there's a team coming to Nashville this week that would fall in that category. Since 1970, only 10% of 0-2 teams have made the playoffs. The Titans are one of the 10 0-2 teams. Don't think they'd be at the top of the list of the team to overcome a tough start. There are a few that may stand out. We'll look into those teams coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday. Next Man Up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. It's getting you ready for Chasing Big Joe. The intro music there.
Coming up at noon.
I stole their anthem.
There you go. Yeah, Chasing Big Joe with Dr. Craig, Nick Frazier coming up at noon. We still got you for a little over an hour and a half here on Next Man Up. We'll get back into the Titans in just a couple of minutes, but did want to look around the NFL. After week 2, everyone always looks at the percentage of 2-0 teams versus 0-2 teams that make the playoffs. It does have a pretty good, it's a pretty good indicator of your success for the year. 64% of 2-0 teams make the playoffs since 1970, 10% of 0-2 teams since 1970. So let's start with the 2-0 teams. You got 10 of them. Nick, who do you think has outperformed what they will actually do this year? I'll read through them very quickly. You got the Bills, the Bengals, the Colts, the Eagles, the Packers, 49ers, Rams, Cardinals, Chargers, and Bucks.
I think the 49ers.
Really?
Yeah, I know in the little prediction we did a few weeks ago, I had them going 13-4, but there's something about this veteran roster that I think that, like talking about the Chiefs earlier, I think that window's closing for them.
Yeah,
because,
for sure.
I mean, obviously Brock Purdy's still a young quarterback, but not healthy. George Kittle, not healthy. I mean, you just have certain pieces to your offense and defense too. Don't forget about that. That are just starting to just pick up injuries when you just can't have that early in the season.
Yeah, the 49ers, I think it's the most obvious closing window that you can see across the NFL. And we've talked about how easy their schedule is. Like it is a cakewalk, if you want to call it that. Like there are a few games that are going to be tough.
Right.
I think they play the Bucks, they play the Texans, obviously 2 games against the Rams, but they have a lot of gimmies. Like they started Mac Jones against the Saints this past week and got the win. Who knows how long Brock Purdy's going to be out with the shoulder injury or
foot?
Or is it a foot? Is it
It might
turf
be-
toe again?
Yeah, I think
it is
it is
turf
toe. Yeah.
Yeah, it's him and Burrow, but obviously Purdy's a little less severe. But you look at that 49ers roster, Brock Purdy just signed a big extension. So you're about to be spending a lot of your salary cap money on Purdy.
Yep.
And yes, you do have a ton of talented players, but they're all getting up there in age. Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle. Fred Warner's still probably in the prime of his career, but he's maybe on the back end of his prime. Nick Bosa, again, still in the prime, but probably towards the back end. That window is closing for that team. This year, they have an easy enough schedule they could get into the playoffs. But I agree with you, though, that maybe things could fall off for the 49ers, especially if Brock Purdy isn't fully healthy anytime soon. The Colts are the easy one. Do I just go with the Colts being they haven't punted in 2 weeks. Very impressive. Want to give props to Shane Steichen and Daniel Jones. They've done a nice job through 2 weeks. And looking at what Houston's done, Houston's 0-2. The Colts have themselves a nice little head start in the division.
Yep.
I just don't know if I see them making the playoffs.
Yeah, it obviously later on in the season, if Daniel Jones starts to be the Daniel Jones of old, then that's kind of where I think the wheels fall off there. But as of right now, they look pretty good.
They do.
I can't knock them. I really can't.
I'm waiting on them to turn back into a pumpkin, but maybe they found something with Daniel Jones. Like we saw it last year with Sam Darnold in Minnesota, where I know Darnold had a little more pedigree than Daniel Jones did, but where it's a guy who was pretty much forgotten, left to be a backup, and ends up having a really good season.
Yeah.
I don't think the Colts are going 14-3, but could they win the division with a 2-game head start? Sure.
Yeah.
It's looking more possible by the day. I don't know if I'm buying it quite yet. The other team, I don't know if I'm buying, the Arizona Cardinals. They've played the Saints and the Panthers so far, and the Panthers nearly erased a 17-point deficit in the last 7 or 8 minutes of the game. Had a chance, got the onside kick. So I don't know if I'm buying the Cardinals yet, especially they're in a tough division where 49ers are 2-0, Rams are 2-0, Seahawks are 1-1, and their only loss was to the 49ers.
Yep.
So that's a tough division. I don't know if I'm buying the Cardinals. I would say you look at those 10 teams, and there are 3 based on preseason expectations that maybe don't fit in,
Right.
and that would be Colts, 49ers, Cardinals. The rest of them all seem to make sense, right? Like Bills, the Bengals yes, we don't know what they're going to be with Browning moving forward, but to say the Bengals would be 2-0 wouldn't be a massive shock.
Right.
Eagles, Packers, Rams, Chargers, Bucks. Like those are all playoff teams. Cardinals, Colts, they're kind of the one of these things is not like the other at this point. 49ers, yet to be seen whether they can take advantage of that easy schedule.
That's fair. I mean, I'm looking at the Cardinals schedule now. I mean, minus playing the Seahawks twice and minus playing, honestly, I'd say, yeah, that's practically it for me. Minus playing the Seahawks twice and the Packers, they have a winnable schedule. Like, I think they can beat the 49ers while all their guys are out for the most part. Lose to Seattle on Thursday Night Football, beat the Titans. Like, that's doable. Colts, like we were talking about, it's a doable win there. Lose to the Packers. Cowboys, that's a toss-up. Maybe lose to the Seahawks again, but then they play the Jags, 49ers again. Bucks would be a tough one. Rams would be a tough one. But, like, I think they're a wild card team.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
No, I agree with you. I think the Cardinals are they definitely have what it takes to be in the mix. They could be a wild card team, but I'm in wait and see mode, I think, with the Cardinals.
That's fair. They just need to fix up that defense a little bit, the back end of it.
The one thing that stands out to me is, well, actually, there are two things. Buffalo, first of all, I think Buffalo might cruise to the 1 seed in the AFC. They got a 2-game lead on the Chiefs now. They've already beaten the Ravens, so they have the tiebreaker with them. They're a game up on the Ravens. I think Buffalo might cruise, especially with how easy that division is looking. Like the Jets aren't good. Buffalo blew them out on Sunday. The Dolphins, we've talked about how horrible the Dolphins are. And the Patriots were in a dogfight with the Dolphins and lost to the Raiders the week before. Buffalo might have the best record in football, and I don't think it'll be all that close. So I think Buffalo might run away. The other thing is, we talked about the Chiefs, and they are the perennial champions of the AFC West. Chargers have a 2-game lead on them now, and already have beaten them once. So they're in the driver's seat for the tiebreaker. Could we finally see a changing of the guard in the AFC West? Chargers have looked pretty good through 2 weeks.
Yeah, a changing of the guard in that division, maybe. As for a changing of the guard as a whole in the playoffs,
right?
Probably not.
No, I
can't
agree. I agree, and we're going to get more into the Chiefs coming up next. 10-0-2 teams, and just like we went through with the 2-0 teams, a lot of them make sense, and we'll look through those. I mentioned 64% of 2-0 teams make the playoffs since 1970. So that means out of these 10, 3 or 4 of them would likely miss the playoffs. It's different every year. So all 10 of them could make it, 5 of them could make it. But on average, about 6 or 7 of these 10. And we went through it. I think Cincinnati makes sense to miss the playoffs, having lost Joe Burrow. I'd pick Indianapolis. And even though, I like you said, Arizona, I think maybe better than expected this year,
they're on the
I would
fringe.
probably pick them to miss it too. But outside of that, I think you got a lot of division winners in there. Buffalo, Philly, Green Bay, Los Angeles, Tampa Bay. Like that, a lot of them make sense. Look at the 0-2 teams. There are a few that stand out. We will get into those coming up next. Who could return from 0-2 and make the playoffs? Again, only 10% of those teams have done it since 1970. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, we're with you on this Tuesday. Next man up here on 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 1025, the game, Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Nice choice from Parker here. We're going to see who can start from the bottom and get here, being the playoffs. As 10 teams are 0-2, only 10% of those teams have made the playoffs in the last 55 seasons. And it works out, funny enough, we have 10 of them. So that would mean only one of these teams is going to make the playoffs. Again, it's different every year. But you look at these 0-2 teams, Nick, and a lot of them fit the bill. The Titans, of course, the Jets, Dolphins, Browns, Giants. I think the Bears may be a little bit surprising. A little bit. Like, they were in it with the Vikings. They blew it, got blown out by the Lions. Saints, Panthers. The two that don't really make sense are two division winners from last year, the Houston Texans and the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, the easy deduction from this is if one of those teams is going to make the playoffs, it's the one with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I'd agree.
And there you go. Nice and easy. But for Houston, I did have some thoughts on the Texans after last night's game. What happened to CJ Stroud? Like, I'm not saying he's horrible. He's definitely not bad, but the regression from year one to now has been sizable. And I'm wondering if the Texans made the wrong choice firing Bobby Slowick last year. Like, yes, Stroud took a step back last year under Slowick, but I mean, Slowick was a huge hot head coaching candidate for a reason. I don't know if it was enough to fire him, and we don't know what went on behind the scenes, but I wonder if that's what's causing some of these issues.
Yeah, it can't be because of his S2 score. He scored so low going into the draft.
Right.
That can't be the problem. No,
Right.
I'm just joking aside. Just I don't understand why CJ Stroud is regressed like you're talking. It doesn't make like the numbers are not adding up. You go add a guy like Jaden Higgins, the other wide receiver out of Iowa State, Noel, thank you. And you got Nico Collins, and when Tank Dell comes back from injury, like you have an offense. I mean, don't forget Dalton Schultz either, but they have Woody Marks in the backfield along with Nick Chubb. Like they have the
Joe
assets.
Mixon will be back at some point.
Right. You have the assets to make him a really good quarterback. It's almost as if DeMeco Ryans wants to evolve this Houston team into the Green Bay Packers of old, where Rodgers was a really good game manager, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because that's the vibe I get from CJ Stroud, is that he might not be as good as he was his rookie year. And it's almost been like a regression so that they can manage the game. And even when they did that, they didn't manage the game well.
He was last night, CJ Stroud, like we talk about how Cam Ward looks like the moment's not too big for him and he looks calm and it feels like he's always kind of in control out there. Even when there's chaos going on around him, you can see that he knows what he's supposed to do and he knows where everybody is. Last night, CJ Stroud just looked a little discombobulated, and it may just be a bad game. The Bucs have a pretty good defense too. Like, don't forget that. But that screen pass towards the end of the game where, first off, there was nobody there. Maybe somebody missed an assignment, but CJ Stroud hit Levante David between the 5 and the 4 on his jersey. And luckily for Stroud, David dropped it. But, like, how does that happen? It felt like he was drifting in the pocket and just kind of running backwards until he found something that was going on, and then the throw was offline. Like, I don't know if I believe in Houston as much anymore. And I guess that opens things up for the Colts or the Jaguars to win the division.
Maybe. I look at a lot of these like quarterbacks that get drafted and they're coming off a lot of success out of college. It's almost like the teams that draft them use that momentum into that first rookie year. And after that, the flame burns out a little bit. Do you have that feeling a little bit?
It's also, you give defenses a year, a full off season of film on you,
Sure.
and you have to go out and adjust to the adjustments, because NFL defenses and NFL defensive coordinators are really, really good. And when they have that full 17 games of film on you, they find your tendencies and they make you adjust. And we've seen in the past that there are some guys who get off to really hot starts in the NFL who can't make those adjustments. And that's either talent because of them, maybe that's coaching, maybe that's the surroundings. But so far for CJ Stroud, he has not lived up to the billing after year one, where there were people calling him a top 5 quarterback in the NFL after 1 year. And he was fine last year. They won a playoff game again, but it doesn't seem to be trending in the right direction for CJ Stroud.
Yeah. don't get me wrong. I still think they're the second best team in the AFC South.
I still think they're the best team in the AFC South, talent-wise.
Really? Oh, yeah, I agree.
But, like,
currently is what
are
I
they
mean.
going to actually win? That remains to be seen.
Right. I think currently, talent-wise, you're right. They're the best team in the AFC South. But as for record-wise, obviously they're at the bottom of the barrel. I think they're better than the Titans and Jags. I'm still on the fringe about the Colts. Like, I know Danny Dimes could do whatever, but I'm at a loss of words just looking at this Houston team. Like, I'm right there with you. Like, where did it all go wrong for CJ Stroud?
And the offensive line is definitely an issue. Like, that deserves part of the blame. Maybe that's a large reason why CJ Stroud is kind of drifting, is because he expects pressure at this point. And you can't say Houston didn't try to fix the offensive line. They completely overhauled it, but replacing bad players with other bad players doesn't usually work. And I know they like Ursary, the tackle out of Minnesota at left tackle, but it does seem like they kind of just swapped out a bunch of veteran players at the other spots and hoped it worked out.
Yeah, it's just you're throwing the dice at that point. You really are. It's unfortunate. I mean, I'm not trying to change the page here, but looking at some other 0-2 teams, I'm kind of liking the Giants.
Really?
If they can put Jackson Dart in at quarterback, I think they can turn their season around.
Well, see, Russell Wilson looked decent on Sunday, and then he threw just a horrible interception in overtime when they couldn't have it, and it cost them the game. Like, I mean, I do think Jackson Dart's going to get in there sooner rather than later. There's just no point for the Giants to not see what they have with him.
Yeah.
Because if he does go out there and he's horrible for the rest of the year, you're probably going to be in position to pick a quarterback. And I do have to say, we had the conversation, Nick, about how many great quarterback options there were in this upcoming draft. It's starting to thin out. Like, I get it. There's a long way to go. No need to judge all these guys based on 3 weeks in the college football season, but Arch Manning doesn't look like he's going to come out after this year. And even if he did, would he be the number one pick?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Nope.
Garrett Nussmeier probably is the favorite, but they didn't look great on offense against Florida on Saturday night. Klubnik, need I say more?
No.
I mean, 3 games into the year, they're 1-2 and nearly lost to Troy too. And then Sellers injured.
Yeah.
At this point, we don't really know what's going on with Lenoris. And who is the other that we had up there? Drew Aller with Penn State. They haven't played anybody yet, so I guess
Still out
we'll
on
see.
that. Yeah.
We'll see. Honestly, Carson Beck's been probably one of the most impressive guys so far.
It's crazy how one offseason can change the trajectory of his draft stock. After the whole Georgia stuff, dropping out of everybody's favor, and now back at Miami, just taking care of business.
Yeah.
Good for him.
So with the Giants, it's like you start Jackson Dart, and I was going to say that you're going to be in position to pick one of those quarterbacks. The issue is, who's it going to be? There really isn't anyone standing out right now, which, again, that's why you take Cam Ward this year.
Yep.
And the Titans have liked what they saw. Skyler on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says, as a suffering Titans fan, I will not listen to the excuse of the offensive line for the Texans and CJ Stroud. I mean, the Titans' offensive line is more talented than the Texans' offensive line. But somehow Cam Ward has been sacked 11 times through 2 games.
Again, that's another lost cause of an answer. I don't have an answer for that, because this is a Titans team with one of the best offensive line coach in the league. And you mentioned something earlier about Patrick Mahomes, and I think we're talking about Andy Reid and just how they do play calling.
Yeah.
I think the reason why the play calling, just a little tangent, as to why the Titans have not really had success with Cam Ward and had more sacks. I think with Kansas City, they revolve around the style of the way Patrick Mahomes plays, if that makes sense. Like the blocking. So say if Mahomes like to improvise on a certain play and he rolls out to the right, there's going to be a sort of block differential when it comes to stuff like that. I think the Titans offensive line is just learning how to base block, if that makes sense.
I think
just stick to the basics.
You need to have some patience, because offensive lines do take time to gel.
Yeah.
And with JC Latham being hurt, that slows that process down. It hasn't been good enough, but that doesn't mean it's not going to get better. This week would be a nice week to start getting better against a Colts team that doesn't have a Nick Bonito or a Jared Verse or Byron Young or a Will Anderson, who you'll see next week. Like, maybe this could be that game where you can a get-right game for this Titans offensive line, and they need it. And we'll see if JC Latham is available First practice report coming out tomorrow. Final thoughts on the 0-2 teams here. Titans are one of them. If I had to look and say teams with a chance to make a run and make the playoffs, because again, only 10% of 0-2 teams have since 1970. Chiefs, of course, would be the favorite, and I would pick the Chiefs if I had to pick one.
Mm-hmm.
Houston, just based on reputation, I think you would expect that they could be in that mix. The only other team on here that I look at and say maybe they got a chance is Chicago. But
fair.
that would be a long shot. Everybody else, I expected you to be here. Titans, Jets, Dolphins, Browns, Giants, Panthers, Saints. Like there's your draft order right there.
Yeah.
So I think that's about right. Those three teams with the Chiefs, the Texans, the Bears. We'll see.
Do you think Miami can make one of those runs like they have in the past and go 9-8?
No.
Oh, okay. So you're done with them.
I think everybody's kind of done with them.
Yeah.
Mike McDaniel, Tua is getting paid too much money to be shown the door quite yet, but Mike McDaniel, I think it's a race to the finish between Brian Callahan and Mike McDaniel to see who is shown the door first at this point.
Photo finish.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you have any thoughts, questions, we'd love to hear from you. You can text or call. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Billy says, just being an eternal optimist, if the Titans win Sunday, they're first in the division. That's not true, but that, it would be a good start. The Colts are 2-1. Titans would be 1-2. But
step in the right direction.
It would, yeah, right. A win would be great. We haven't seen one in almost 300 days, maybe more. No, little less. It was around Thanksgiving last year. Haven't won at home in over 300 days. The last time was the Patriots in overtime. Ryan in Florida also says Titans can still win the AFC South, just have to win out in a weak division. Sure, if you can beat your divisional opponents, I wouldn't count on it, but I don't think the Titans are going to go 3-14 this year. I think they'll be better than that, but they're not going to be in contention to win the AFC South.
Like Big Joe says, you just have to beat 3 other teams.
That is true. That is the great thing about the NFL. You don't have to beat 18 teams to get into the playoffs. You just have to beat 3. And right now, the Colts have the lead in the AFC South at 2-0. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Wrap up hour number 2. You got a Cardinals shirt on there, Nick Frazier. Baseball doesn't get enough love around here. We're going to take a quick 5 or 10 minutes to just talk some baseball because we're coming down the stretch in the MLB season, and I hate that this part of baseball season gets overshadowed so much. So we're going to give it some shine, give it some love. Coming up next, Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game.
What is this? Choke, Cubs, choke.
Parker Kelly
Choke, Cubs, choke.
giving some
Hey,
love to the
Chicago,
Cubs.
What do you say? The Cubs are gonna lose today. It's not bad luck. They just suck. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? The Cubs are gonna lose today.
This is top tier.
There you
hating
go,
right
Nick
here.
Frazier. I love it. In the Cardinals World Series shirt, too.
I just rally against the Cubs, man. My best friend's a big Cubs fan. Been to Wrigley Field, love the atmosphere, but
That's
Busch Stadium.
that
my
is
heart.
on my list. I've not been to Wrigley yet. I've been to Fenway. I got to get to Wrigley soon. Maybe that's a next summer type of thing.
Yeah.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up 1025 the game. We are spending just a few minutes on baseball here because I don't think baseball gets enough love. And I understand we don't have a major league team around here. So obviously there's not going to be quite as much intrigue into it. But we got 2 weeks left in the regular season. And I don't think enough people are talking about how fun the next month and a half could be around baseball because it feels so wide open in both leagues. I'm a Tigers fan. Tigers could clinch the division this week. But in the AL, there's really not a favorite. Like the Blue Jays have the best record, but you got Blue Jays, Tigers, Mariners leading the division. Houston, New York, Boston. You could get Yankees, Red Sox in a 3-game series in the playoffs in the first week. Like that is so much fun to talk about. And then in the NL, we were just going through it. Like the NL is loaded. All 6 playoff teams have a chance to go win it. The Dodgers likely going to have to play in a wild card series where 3-game set, anything can happen. I am fired up for postseason baseball. And I don't think it gets enough love. And I understand in the market we're in where there isn't a baseball team right here in Nashville, it's hard to get that kind of interest in it.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I'm fired up for some postseason baseball.
Look, if you're not a baseball fan and or your favorite team is not in the playoffs like mine, unfortunately, cheer for the Brewers. That's a Nashville Sounds parent club. They're one of the top teams in the NL.
Pretty much all of those players who are making plays for the Brewers, the best team in baseball, came through Nashville. So yeah, that's a good one. If you're a Braves fan, I mean, maybe you don't want to root for the Brewers, but like if your team's not in it and you're a fan of Nashville sports, Brewers are a good one. And I understand. I know Robbie has the conversation about how hockey should do as much as it can to avoid overlap with the NFL and college football. I think baseball, there's really not much you can do because baseball is literally just played in the months that you can play it.
Right.
Like you can't play baseball outside in November and December. So there's not much you can do, but it does suck that the best season of baseball does get a little overshadowed by the beginning of football season. I feel myself like I was locked in on the Tigers all through the summer when there's nothing else going on. And then I feel like the last couple of weeks, it's like, oh crap, the Tigers are playing. Like maybe I should watch that. And it's just because football started and my mind is elsewhere. I need to lock back in because the pennant race is always so much fun.
And then when the playoffs start, you watch a bunch of wild card games at 12:30 in the afternoon.
Right.
You're like, this is what I needed.
Well,
I need playoff baseball during the day.
And this is what I love about this show now is I'm in here from 9 to noon and baseball season's going to wrap up just before Vandy women's basketball starts and I'll be traveling and all that stuff. So during playoff season, it's like I can get home from the show and just got baseball for 6 or 7 hours, maybe more, 10 hours if they have 3 games going on.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
You'll get your fixing in for the day.
I am ready for some postseason baseball. As a Tigers fan since I was 7 years old, I was spoiled early on with how good those teams were with Verlander and Scherzer and Cabrera and all that. They were always in the playoffs. Went 10 years without making the playoffs, and I got a taste of it last year. I can't wait. I don't think the Tigers are going to make a run this year and win the World Series. They haven't played well lately, but there's something different about playoff baseball where the crowd's hanging on every pitch. You're hanging on every pitch. It's like regular season baseball is fun to watch. Playoff baseball is up there with playoff hockey for me.
I agree to that.
As like the intensity of watching these players grind out at bats and like one swing. Last year, Kerry Carpenter homered off Emmanuel Clase. Like
to right field.
That moment is just like, there's nothing like it.
It's engraved in your
There's
brain.
nothing like it. because baseball's such a one-on-one. You're watching these guys go at it, and when it finally breaks through, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I can't wait. I want to give baseball some love here as we get down the stretch. We got 2 weeks left, and although the playoff races they're not great this year.
Right.
There are a couple of good ones, like the Mets are trying to hold off the Reds, and in the AL, there's a couple of teams trying to chase down whoever loses the division between the Astros and Mariners. So there's a few races, but I think the playoffs are just going to be electric this year. Likely getting a Yankees-Red Sox opening round matchup, likely going to see the Dodgers-Mets in the opening round. Like those are fun 3-game series. And in a 3-game series, it means even more every pitch.
Yes.
Because you lose, you're on the brink of elimination immediately.
You really are. And you make a great point about the Mets and the Dodgers. We talked about it during the break. Could this be the year where the Dodgers kind of slip up a little bit?
Right.
Because I'm curious to see if Lindor still has some playoff magic left in the tank. I just remember when he was playing for Cleveland, he had that home run to right field, and they just like caused it to be an earthquake. It was an incredible feeling.
If the Dodgers are going to lose to somebody in a 3-game series, the Mets, I think, would be a bad matchup for them, because you've got the top of that order having to face Lindor, Soto, Alonso 4 times throughout a game. You're not getting through that unscathed every single time.
Nope.
So I think it's going to be a great playoffs. And like everybody talks about the Dodgers super team. And yes, they won the World Series last year. But why baseball is great is because it's a round ball. It's a round bat. You could have the highest payroll and still lose because baseball just baseballs sometimes.
You're right.
And it's so much fun. And I can't wait. 2 weeks away, I believe 2 weeks from today is the start of the playoffs. So we're getting close.
Unless the Cardinals make a miraculous 4.5 games back out of the wild card and come
Hey,
back. I doubt
it could happen. I mean, we saw the Tigers last year. They had a 0.2% chance to make the playoffs in August, and they ended up making it. So let's go to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. Edward wants to chime in on the MLB playoffs. Edward, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. Thanks. Listen to your show while I'm running in the mornings. I appreciate it. I want to talk a little New York Yankees baseball. I think they're half a game out. Boston, where the Boston Red Sox have come from, I really don't know. So nobody's going to catch Toronto. But I want to talk a little bit about the New York Yankees. You have the greatest Yankee home run hitters of all time. Let's go with, of course, Babe Ruth. Next is Mickey Mantle. After that is Lou Gehrig. Fourth is Joe DiMaggio. Fifth is blank, and sixth is Yogi Berra. Do you know who fifth is, guys?
Is it Aaron Judge?
Yes, it is, and he is fixing to pass Joe DiMaggio. So, who is he going to be behind then? Lou Gehrig.
Wow.
We're watching one of the greatest baseball players in the history of baseball play. I don't know if we have the appreciation of it. 6'7" or 6'8", 240 pounds, mammoth of a man. Yes, people are on Boone for how he puts things together, but Judge came back from an injury in early August, and he is going on a tear. He's fixing to get 50 home runs for this season. He will be in the 500 club. I do believe that. And one other just side note, I am an Atlanta Braves fan also. My dad used to take me down there as a kid, and I've seen Hank Aaron hit a home run now. It's one of the baseball highlights of my life. But anyway, I wanted to put that out there and see what your guys thought on the Yankees advancing as far as they did last year, because, of course, you know who got them in the World Series. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for the call, Edward. You don't realize the greatness of Aaron Judge, and you also don't really realize how old he is. Like, he came up late with the Yankees, but he is one of the most dangerous home run hitters we've seen in a very long time. And that makes the Yankees dangerous in the postseason. I'm not that worried about the Yankees in the playoffs, mostly because I think Aaron Boone, first off, is not a great manager.
I agree.
And they boot the ball around. Like, I don't want to say the phrase, they don't play the game the right way, but that's kind of what it feels like, is they do the little things right, whether that's base running, whether that's defensively. The bullpen has its flaws. So, yes, the Yankees, they've got the star power. I don't know if they're going to be able to make it work in the postseason.
Yeah, they've been known to live or die by the long ball. And I think if they don't fix their Anthony Volpe situation they got going on, this team could fall into a spiral quick.
Yes.
And to Edward's point about Aaron Judge, he's absolutely right. I mean, you're looking at a guy that could potentially pass up Lou Gehrig in less than 2,000 games. He only has 1,100 games under his belt and is trailing him by 130 home runs. We're witnessing some history for sure.
No, Aaron Judge, I don't think he gets enough flowers for what he's done over the last 5 to 10 years as one of the best home run hitters of this era of baseball. Like he is so dangerous when he steps up to the plate. And again, that's what the Yankees do have the bats to keep up with anybody. The pitching has its moments. Like Rodon's good, Fried can be good. Luis Heel is back from injury and working his way back, but I just don't know if I believe in him. I like the Red Sox, honestly. Like they've got the ace in Crochet, they've got the back end of the bullpen, and they've got a lot of young talent. I think the Red Sox could be a team that sneakily makes a run in the AL. 615-737-1025. Quick thoughts on baseball there. Don't worry, Titans fans. We are going to get back into the Titans here coming up next. We mentioned the wide receivers earlier in the show. Calvin Ridley, an underwhelming start to say the least this season. Bad game against the Broncos. Kind of a meh game against the Rams on Sunday. Is he going to step up soon? Or do we see Alec Iamaner passing him as wide receiver 1 in front of our very eyes early in his career? We'll get into it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly BI membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Final hour here on this Tuesday edition of the show. If you have thoughts, you can text or call. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025 is the number. Back into the Titans for this final hour. Let's talk wide receivers. Calvin Ridley through 2 games, 7 catches, less than 100 yards total. Has not been good enough for Calvin Ridley, a guy who there was a whole lot of hype about heading into the year. The connection with Cam Ward, that he felt like he was able to take the momentum from the way he finished last year, finished really strong last season, and it just hasn't shown up. Drops last week, this week against the Rams, just a little bit of a disappearing act at times. Just didn't feel like he was even much of an option for Cam Ward out there. How much are we worried about Calvin Ridley at this point? We did a panic meter with Corey Curtis last week of Calvin Ridley, and I put it at a 3. Think that's slowly starting to rise if he doesn't start to put up some numbers moving forward here.
I'd say it's at a 5, a respectable 5. If going off that 3, I'd say a 5, just because this guy in game 1, you're dropping passes that are at the numbers. Like, you're a perennial wide receiver known by everybody else that you can still catch the ball. You'd think after his, year-long suspension from his thing in Atlanta that he would be back healthier than ever and ready to go. And he was in Jacksonville. And then after Jacksonville, it was like, where did the production go? It's almost like the Titans always pick up a wide receiver as a wide receiver 1, when in reality, they're like a wide receiver 2 or 3 on a really good team.
Yeah, I think on a contender, Calvin Ridley's a good wide receiver 2.
Yeah.
But I think he's fine as a wide receiver 1 for this team right now, especially with the way Alec Iamaner has played. But I don't think Iamaner is ready to be wide receiver 1 right now. Like, he's made some plays, but I don't know if the consistency is there as a rookie to step up and be a 1,000-yard receiver, which is what you need out of your wide receiver 1. Calvin Ridley's supposed to be that. And he was fine on Sunday. The drops went away. And I know you can point to the one on third down, which catchable ball, good play by the defense. Like, I'm not going to blame Calvin Ridley for that one. Guy punches straight on the ball. It's going to be tough to hold on. But catchable pass, for sure. Overall, he was fine, but it's like, I'd like for him to be more of a factor in this offense. And maybe that's scheme from Brian Callahan. Maybe that's the opposing scheme saying, we're going to take him away. I would have to watch the all 22, which, I'm not a film expert. Like, I don't know if I could make a determination on that or not, but you're paying, he's got a $92 million contract. It's like, at some point we need to see him make some plays for the young quarterback. This team is 32nd in pass offense through 2 games, less than 300 yards passing. Like, Cam Ward, if you're going to start seeing the results, Calvin Ridley has to be a big part of it, whether that's in the red zone, whether that's deep plays, whether that's on third downs. Like, you got to have your go-to guy be a go-to guy. And so far, Calvin Ridley hasn't been for Cam Ward.
At some point, you just have to start thinking, is it more on Brian Callahan's play calling, or is it more on Cam Ward just having better chemistry with Alec Iamaner?
And that's what's confusing, because all we heard through the preseason and training camp was how great of a connection Cam Ward and Calvin Ridley had.
Yeah.
And it's not even that they're not connecting. Cam Ward's not even really looking his way all that often. And maybe he's covered. Like that, again, I'm not 100% sure on every single play that every route that Calvin Ridley has run, what the defense has done, what the reads have been for Cam Ward. But right now, he has 14 targets, 7 catches, 84 yards through the first 2 weeks of the season. So 14 targets, 7 per game. It's probably a little lower than I would have expected. But I'd like to see more from Calvin Ridley. And again, somebody smarter with football than me. Like, I consider myself a pretty good football guy, and I can watch football and understand everything that's going on. But I'm not going to be able to tell you what the objective was from the defense, the offense on one particular route on every single play of the game. And maybe there's something deeper going on with Calvin Ridley. But so far, 84 yards through 2 games, no touchdowns, 7 catches, not good enough.
Yeah, and take Calvin Ridley out of the equation just for a second, and you look at the other targets that, Cam has thrown to, and it's been Elk Manor, Gunnar Helm, Shamir Dike has had a little bit more involvement this past week. All those guys are rookies. All of them are rookies. So it makes me think, again, back to my question, is it Cam Ward just having better chemistry with everybody else, and the whole Calvin Ridley, Cam Ward chemistry thing was just a lie?
Overblown?
Yeah,
but like
overblown or a lie? Like, I don't know.
It's only week 2, and last year it took a while for Ridley to get adjusted. You had hoped that wouldn't be an issue this year, second year in the system, but so far he just hasn't been as much of a factor. Let's go to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. JJ wants to chime in on Calvin Ridley. JJ, thanks for calling. What's up?
Yeah, my feelings on Ridley is he's miscast. Okay, he's not a 1. He'd be a 2 or a 3 on anybody else's team. He asked to be the 1 on the Titans only guys the way he's getting paid. But me, just put the rookies out there. Okay, let's don't focus on him. Get Elick better. DK gives him some speed. There's another guy they've got. Get them all out there, and let's just let Cam go with the young guys. The guys are going to grow with them, and let's just move on. I wasn't high on Ridley last year. Okay, and so I'm not being I'm consistent. I'm just willing. This is a rebuild year. Let's go young, rebuild, move on. Van Johnson, bench him. The other guy that came from Seattle, whose name I can't think
Tyler
of
Lockett.
right now. Well, yeah, bench him. Let's just go young and go with it's going to be a bumpy ride. Let's go with the ups and downs, young team, and just go all in. That's what I felt and seen that needs to happen. Okay, in the second half, the Rams quit playing. The Rams were the better team, and they played like it. Okay, so I'm willing to let's let this year go, and let's just grow and develop with Cam and move on.
Thanks for the call, JJ. I don't necessarily agree with taking Ridley off the field. Even if Ridley is not producing, he does draw attention from the defenses, which opens things up for the younger guys. And I do really like that we're seeing the connection with Ward and Iamaner. Like that is huge for Iamaner to show that he can be maybe not a wide receiver 1, but he can be a starting wide receiver for years to come for this team. And he's looked the part so far. But you do need Ridley's got to live up to that contract. And we saw it later on in the year last season with worse quarterback play. I think a breakout is coming, but it is a little bit concerning that they haven't really been able to hook up all that often through the first couple of weeks.
Yeah,
we'll see.
And to JJ's point, like, as long as you keep Ridley out there, and you mentioned it, that's game planning purposes. That makes the defense have to really put somebody on him. I mean, Patrick Surtain was on him in week 1.
No, it's true. Like, you got to give, and he dropped passes in week 1 too, which that's part of it. But yes, he's had some tough matchups early on. This week, maybe a chance for him to break out. And I think they really need him to break out if they're going to have a chance to win. Wes from Hermitage says, not my take, but this is one serious fan's take that I read online. If the balls that Ridley dropped were thrown to Restrepo, the drops are cut in half at minimum. Goodness, this team has gotten so miserable that even the fan takes are getting outlandish. Yeah, I'm fine keeping Restrepo on the practice squad, seeing if he develops into anything. I doubt it, but Restrepo wouldn't have been open on those passes to Calvin Ridley. Because that's the issue, is he doesn't have the speed to separate. Like, right. I understand they have the connection, but leave Calvin Ridley out there. Ridley's going to figure it out, you hope. I don't think Restrepo makes this team any better. I'm not a Restrepo believer.
Okay. Let me throw this out there for you, Jake. Say if Callahan's gone, say if, the whole season's down the crapper, right? Do you decide to put Restrepo up there? Do you bring him up?
I mean, if the season,
does that hurt the development of Cam Ward?
If the season's over at the end of the year and you want to throw him in there for a couple snaps, fine. Like, whatever. Like, elevate him, get him some reps, fine. But to act like Xavier Restrepo would be an upgrade over Calvin Ridley is absolutely ridiculous.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, just to bring him up.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with that towards the end of the year. Like, get him some reps and see what he can do. But like, don't count on him being anything
not a
meaningful.
Yeah, not a generational talent,
to say the least.
There you go.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. We will get to your phones coming up next. I have some thoughts on Cam Ward and not the ability, but the opportunities to throw the ball downfield. We'll talk about that coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game.
When you talk about the yards per attempt, it's pretty low. You attribute that.
What's the
more,
yards per attempt? Just like I don't know what it is.
4.7, I think. Do you attribute that more to the incompletions, or do you attribute that more to taking the shorter routes or things like that? What do you think factors into that?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't know enough about that number to really dive into it, but I think we've had plenty of opportunities to go down the field. He's taken a few of them. He's done a good job of managing some shorter throws. That's all a part of it. You still have to be able to, when you get playing with a backup tackle, and you're trying to manage that process as well. So there's some things that go hand in hand. There's probably some run solution throws that we've kicked out that haven't gotten, they're behind the line of scrimmage type throws that don't get a ton of yards. So I'm sure there's a combination of a bunch of different things. I wouldn't necessarily attribute it to anything that he's doing or not doing at the moment through 2 games.
That was Brian Callahan yesterday talking about why Cam Ward's yards per attempt have been so low. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. Next man up 102.5 The Game. I went back and looked yesterday at the next gen stats. They put together the little dot charts of all of Cam Ward's throws. First off, the touchdown, the trajectory of the little arc that they have, ridiculous. Go find that if you can. It looks so funny. But he's only thrown the ball beyond 20 yards downfield 3 times this year. And 2 of them were in the Broncos game, I believe, late. And they were down the left sideline, deep shots. The other was barely beyond 20 yards, and it was incomplete. He's 0 for 3 on passes 20 yards downfield. I'm wondering, and Brian Callahan, I thought that was a good answer from him, that there are a lot of factors that go into that. You're playing with a backup tackle, so you can't protect quite as long, maybe not the opportunity to take some of those downfield shots. But we saw last year with Will Levis, at least once or twice per game, they would run that deep play action fake, set up, and throw a deep post down the field to Calvin Ridley. We haven't seen that yet. Who knows if its defense is taking it away or if they just haven't been able to protect it. But Cam Ward has arm talent. We've seen it. I'd like to see just 1 or 2 shots per game. And so far, again, 3 passes thrown beyond 20 yards downfield, and he's 0 for 3.
It's not good. It's not good. I mean, to Terry's point when he was asking that question, if people were curious, Cam Ward is at a 4.0 yards per attempt in game 1 and 5.3 versus the Rams. So a grand total of an average of 4.7.
Yes, which is not good.
Average in the NFL is around 9.1.
Really?
I think is what it said online. Let me double check.
I always thought it was like 6.5 or 7.
Let me look
but
here.
I think good is like above 7.
Let's see. Yeah, sorry. Excuse me.
I was going to say 9.1. That means every time you throw, you're basically getting a first down.
Excuse me. I'm looking at the top. Sorry, when the chart came up, it had the top team, which is Indianapolis.
Gotcha.
So excuse me on that. Yeah,
Indiana
average
Jones
is around 7.
Yeah, so 6.5 or 7 is average. Cam Ward's been below that. And when you're only completing 50% of your passes, that hurts that average too, because it's yards per attempt, not yards per completion.
Right.
Let's go back to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Rick is on the line wanting to talk about the Titans offense. Rick, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Yeah, guys, I think the problem with Cam not being able to go that far downfield to Ridley or to whoever, I think it's 2 issues. I think it's play calling, and also I think it's the offensive line. He doesn't have that extra second or second and a half to really set up and throw that far. I mean, so far this offensive line has just been very porous, just like last year, and that's the result. And then also I think that the head coach is so cautious about everything that he doesn't, these little safe dunks and 5 and 7 yard passes, basically are the things that he's calling. So I think it's a combination of the 2. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Rick. I think that's probably about right.
Yeah.
That I think you're trying to give Cam Ward some easy throws that he can hit. I'm sure that's part of it where Brian Callahan wants to call plays where you're not putting the ball in harm's way. But also, yes, the offensive line hasn't been able to protect very long. But you got to, if you can pick and choose your spots, and this goes back to Brian Callahan again, of like, can you pick and choose your spots to take some shots? Because when you're a team that is not as talented as most of the teams you're going to play, you got to have some explosive plays, whether that's big plays on offense, turnovers, special teams. If you're going to win games against teams that are more talented than you, you need those plays to go your way. And when you're not taking those shots on offense, it's going to be tough for this team all year long to matriculate the ball down the field on 8, 10, 12 yard or 12 play drives. Like, I don't think this team is talented enough. I don't think the offensive line is deep enough, if JC Latham's still injured, to be able to sustain drives and get the ball in the end zone. You need some big plays at some points, and they just haven't taken the shots.
Yeah, and to take those big plays, you have to, like you said, you have to matriculate. Is that the right word? Matriculate, excuse me. You got to matriculate those plays to where you're like the Rams, you're 3rd and 5. You're 5 yards away from the sticks.
Right.
You're not 8 yards away from the sticks. So you have to build up to that. And I think the conservative play calling from Callahan has really hurt them because of it. Because if you're a little bit more aggressive and getting to the sticks every once in a while, like that you're going to be able to uncork the ball over the top.
Right. And it's a balance, right? Because the opposite side of the coin is also true of if you take too many shots, the easiest way to lose games when you're less talented than the other team is turnovers.
Yep.
If you turn the ball over and you're not as talented, it's going to be tough to dig yourself out of that hole. So you have to pick and choose your spots. But so far, it's been pretty conservative. Sean asked, wasn't the accepted PI from Sunday's game over 20 yards? I believe it was actually, but that wouldn't show up in the stat sheet because it doesn't count as an attempt for Cam Ward. So, and not saying that there haven't been plays down the field, like the I am enter catch on the sideline. That wasn't quite 20 yards downfield, but It was still a shot play down the sideline. There have been chances, but I'd like to see Sunday just once or twice go for a long touchdown. Like start your drive. Let's say you force a turnover at the 30-yard line or something like that. Like we saw against the Broncos.
Yeah.
That first interception, McCreary. You're kind of in that space, still behind midfield, but long way to go.
Yeah.
Sudden change, play action fake, throw a deep shot, and see what happens. I think it's been a little too scared of whether it's turning the ball over or the offensive line. Maybe it depends on J.C. Latham being back in the lineup, but there just hasn't been enough attempts to make explosive plays downfield. And again, this team hasn't shown that it has the ability to sustain drives for long periods of time.
To the point you made earlier today, it's the fact that Callahan didn't have a real good feel for the game. I don't know if that's because of injuries, but just take a chance.
Yep.
You know, like if you don't have a feel for the game, don't call the plays.
Yeah.
Give it to somebody else.
Don't think that's going to happen.
No, it's not. But I'm just saying that's logically what you should do.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. You can text or call. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. More on the Titans coming up next. 2 segments to go here on this Tuesday edition of Next Man Up here on 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. About 30 minutes left with you, Chasing Big Joe, along with Dr. Crane, coming up at the top of the hour. Don't forget, tomorrow, Corey Curtis from News 2 going to join us for the full 3 hours. We'll go through the Titans' loss to the Rams on Sunday. Get ready for Colts and Titans this weekend at Nissan Stadium. We were having the conversation about taking the chance downfield and seeing if the Titans can, just try and get some more explosive plays. Because, again, this team, if you're going to win games, sometimes you need that big play, one-play touchdown from 70 yards, and that can be the difference between winning and losing. 3337 on our text line says, do you think maybe Callahan is trying to ease his number one pick in against elite defenses? If we were calling big plays and they didn't work, we'd be saying, why is he forcing Cam in too fast? It's damned if you do, damned if you don't. And I get that of like, yeah, if he was just flinging it all around the yard, we might be saying, man, like, just give him some layups. I think there needs to be a balance is more of what I'm saying. Is like, yeah, you want to get the high percentage throws for Cam Ward, but if you're going to win these games, sometimes you got to take the top off the defense. And if you can take the top off the defense and prove you can take the top off the defense, it's going to open things up underneath more for Cam Ward.
Yeah, and after watching the first game against Denver, I think fans and coaches should know Cam Ward's got it. And we've mentioned already, he's got it. There's no need to ease him into the playbook anymore. Start throwing some throws. Start putting a little play action in there. Start taking off the top of the defense. Do it all. Because at this point, Callahan's already coaching for his job. His job may already be gone at this point. We don't know. But for Cam Ward to keep developing as a young quarterback, you have to take those chances. And as a head coach, even if you may be out the door, what does that show for the young quarterback that you drafted? It doesn't show guidance. It doesn't show leadership. Show a little leadership and accountability to where you can actually help out your young quarterback.
And again, I do want to preface this with, we don't see the play calls. Like,
right.
as Brian Callahan said, do you have the play calls, Paul? Like, we don't have the play calls. So we don't know exactly what they're calling. And maybe it's more of an issue of the receivers aren't getting open and Cam's having to eat it. Like that could be it too, of they're calling the plays, but the receivers just aren't getting open. So going to grain of salt with that. But again, 3 passes that have gone 20 yards downfield from Cam Ward. I think you need to see just a little more risk taking from the young quarterback coming up this week. Wes from Hermitage said, I guess we said, just take a chance for Cam Ward. He said he thought of the episode of The Office where Andy's on the phone with Angela. Take a chance, take a chance, take a chance. Yeah. And he's got his a cappella group on speakerphone. What'd she say, dude? It's a good one.
What were they called? What was that group called? Something Tones, right?
I always mix it up with the Pitch Perfect one. They were the Treble Makers.
Great movie, by the way.
Yes.
Great movie.
The Class of Trouble of like.
Here Comes Treble.
Here Comes Treble.
Here Comes Treble. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yep.
That's a good one from Andy Bernard, the Nard Dog. I look at this issue of Cam Ward taking some shots as there could be many reasons for it. And Rick, who just called in, I thought made a really good point of like, the offensive line clearly hasn't been good. Maybe you don't want Cam Ward to be a sitting duck back there. Let's hope JC Latham is back this week, because then there's really not a ton of excuses of like, that line should be good. They should be. Will they be? Remains to be seen.
Hold your breath on that one.
But they should be good. And you mentioned that you can see Cam Ward has it. This is the second week in a row now that the opposing team has come out and publicly praised Cam Ward. Last week, we heard that Broncos defenders were saying, man, that's a dude they've got over there. Mm-hmm. This week, Matthew Stafford came out and was saying he was really impressed by Cam Ward and, gave him a little hat tip and said, there you go, youngin, after the touchdown pass. So this 2 back-to-back weeks where it's not just Titans fans and Nashville media saying that Cam Ward looks good. The opposing team is pointing it out too. And I feel like he got something here. The key is not ruining it. Like I think that's what all Titans fans are just worried about right now. It's like to fire Callahan, not to fire Callahan. Everything that this organization does for the rest of this year has to be focused on one thing, and that's putting Cam Ward in the best position possible to succeed for the long term. I know I'm not breaking new ground there, but like that is, for the rest of the year, that is the goal, is make sure that heading into 2026, you have Cam Ward in the best possible position to become a franchise quarterback who can take you to a Super Bowl in the future.
Yeah, and I think that's what the building blocks of all these rookies that he's starting to target. I think that's what you have to do for a guy like Cam Ward to continue to develop. I mentioned earlier in the show, one thing I would like to see Cam Ward do a little bit more because the line has been very poor for him. Just throw the ball away. Just do that. If you can throw the ball away, it shows growth and development, but it also goes to show you that since the offensive line is not that great, have all the pressure on Brian Callahan to call something better.
Yep.
Run the ball a little bit. And I think that's another reason why Dan Moore Jr. was, I guess his holding stuff was overshadowed by the run game last year with Pittsburgh. I think that's kind of something that you have to look at. Maybe the Titans should run the ball a little bit more, just kind of, hunker down.
And Tony Pollard looked good
Yeah.
on Sunday. 20 carries, 92 yards. Like, you'll take 4.5 yards a clip every single time. So I really like that from Tony Pollard.
And looking at his chart too, like from week 1 to week 2, you could definitely see there was a little bit more gung-ho. Oh, I just pulled the Rex road. Excuse me.
It's okay. That mic, I sat there one time and I punched it at like every third time I talked.
Yeah.
So
I'm just a hand direction guy. I can't help it. But, Pollard just in week 2 seemed like he was just running with downhill, which is good to see. Whereas it wasn't, left or right.
I'm gonna say this. Robbie said at the very end of Robbie and Retro this morning that he's guaranteeing Titans are going to win on Sunday. Titans are going to get their first win against the Colts. I have 2 calls to action. One is for Nashville, and we'll get to that coming up in our final segment.
Uh-huh.
This call to action is to Brian Callahan. If you want to keep your job, you got to win. You got to win big on Sunday. Like, this needs to be a statement victory on Sunday. I'm not talking about eking it out because maybe Daniel Jones made a couple too many mistakes or, just barely skating by. Like, yes, you want wins. I want an impressive win from Brian Callahan. I think that's the only way that he starts digging himself back up to even with the fan base, maybe the locker room, the organization. Like, if he wants to keep his job, you have to show that you can not only win in this league, but you can be the better team and you can punch a team in the mouth and go get a big win. I'm not saying it has to be 35-0, but go win in commanding fashion. Outside of the Dolphins game last year, have we seen that from Brian Callahan?
No.
And the Dolphins game, it was Tyler Huntley on the other side. So go win and do it in a way that makes you feel like the Titans won that game. The Colts didn't lose that game. This might be the last chance because if you lose this one, again, 3-game road trip against 3 teams that have at least shown that they can be competitive this year. Texans have been in both of the games they played. Cardinals are 2-0. Raiders beat the Patriots last week. Like, you may struggle to win more than one of those games. You got to win Sunday, and I think you got to do it in a way that instills a little confidence from your team and from the fan base.
So we're thinking like a 2-score game, like 14 plus?
Like, win. Asking for 30 or more points might be tough because the Titans don't do that. But, like, 31-17 would be, like, just something that we come on here on Monday and we're not talking about, like, they won in spite of Brian Callahan. That, hey, Brian Callahan had those guys ready to play. They went out and took it. That's what I want on Sunday. I don't know if we're going to get it, but if Brian Callahan is not in a position anymore where he can just eke out a couple of wins against average teams and keep his job, he's got to show that he can get this team to play for him and go win games, not just avoid losing games, because that would have been what a win against the Broncos was 2 weeks ago. We would have been impressed because the Broncos were a playoff team last year, but if they won that game, it would have been that both teams tried to lose and the Titans maybe did a little bit worse job of trying to lose. You got to go win one. Go and take it against the Colts on Sunday. It's my call to action.
Okay. I'm going to be on the opposite side. I just don't see this team getting it done. I'm sorry. That might just be being negative, but the Colts look pretty darn good.
No, they do.
I mean, they haven't punted the ball in the first
team
2
in
weeks.
the Super Bowl era to not punt in their first 2 games.
Now, I will say that's a plus. If Brian Callahan and this Jannard Wilson defense can get the Colts to at least punt 2 or 3 times on Sunday, I'd count that as a win.
There you go.
That's a small win.
And like, I don't know if I believe the Titans are going to go out and make a statement on Sunday. They haven't shown me anything that would make me have a lot of faith in them. But I'm saying if Brian Callahan wants to keep his job, that's what he has to do. It can't just be a 17-14 win where you end with 220 yards of total offense. Maybe your defense got a turnover that set up a game-winning field goal.
Yeah.
It's got to be inspiring. Like, you have to inspire confidence in yourself. And the only way to do that is to go command a game and go win it. I don't know if they're going to do it, but I'm saying that if you want to prove that you still have some fight left in you and have a chance to keep your job, that's what it's going to take on Sunday.
Okay.
So there you go.
So you and Robbie in the same boat.
I'm not saying they're going to do it. I'm saying that's what needs to happen.
Okay.
That's what needs to happen if Brian Callahan's going to keep his job. 615-737-1025. I also have a call to action to the city of Nashville. All of you listening out there. We'll do that coming up next to wrap up the show. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Is this Pitch Perfect?
Oh yeah.
I was so confused. I was like, this doesn't sound like the Sia version of this song.
Yeah.
Pitch Perfect is a good movie. It
You
really
said
is.
Pitch Perfect last segment, and it's just been on my mind ever
No,
since.
it's a good movie. If you haven't seen it, I understand like a lot of our listening audience, that's probably not their cup of tea, but it's an entertaining movie.
I'll have to give it a watch.
The sequels are not
good.
worth it, but
2 is the best in my opinion.
2 is better than 3. That's for sure.
I need to expand my movie catalog.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Last call for phones. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. We haven't talked college football at all during the show.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a call to action for our listeners out there, all of Nashville. You have a 3-0 team ranked in the top 20 in the country playing in your backyard this Saturday. I am calling Nashville to action to pack out First Bank Stadium this weekend.
Ooh.
Like that team with what they just did back-to-back weeks on the road. Again, they've outscored 2 power conference teams, including the 11th ranked team in the country over the last 6 quarters, 65-7. Go pack out that stadium for that team. Vanderbilt football, we know how bad it's been at times.
Right.
That long SEC losing streak. They lost 10 games in a row back in 2023. But this is a team that's won 10 of its last 16 games. They're 3-0, and they're ranked 20th in the country. Go pack that stadium out. Go show that team some love. I know we got some Tennessee fans listening. That's fine. You don't have to do it. That's your rival.
Yeah.
But I know there are a lot of Vandy fans out there in Nashville who maybe aren't the Vandy fans to go to a game. They're more of like a casual, root for them, but like not a diehard.
Yeah.
Go show your love to that team. They deserve it. They really do. I will be up in the booth, but I want to see First Bank Stadium sold out in black and gold on Saturday against Georgia State.
Okay. I know the student section was expanded, wasn't it?
The students have been awesome. I think Vandy has made it easier for them to get in, and they've made it easier for them to find seats. The students have come out in full support, and I think it's a night game. It's a game you should win.
Mm-hmm.
They're coming off of a top 15 victory on the road. Like, there's no reason why that shouldn't be a great atmosphere on Saturday night. And I think the Vandy United program at Vanderbilt has made that stadium exactly what it needs to be. Like with the student population of Vanderbilt,
right?
The enrollment is the word I was searching for. With the enrollment of Vanderbilt, you're never going to need 100,000 seat stadium at Vandy because just the alumni base isn't quite as big as some of the other SEC schools. But if you can have 30 to 35,000 with great luxury seating options like they've added with the new construction and pack that thing out with students, I think they can make that a good atmosphere. You know, Nick Saban, it was plastered on the video board after Vandy beat Alabama. The only place that isn't hard to play in the SEC is Vanderbilt. He said that. Prove him wrong.
Yeah.
Go and make that an atmosphere this weekend. It's Georgia State. Like, I don't think Georgia State's bringing a whole lot of fans. Go and pack out First Bank Stadium. That is my call to action to Nashville on Saturday night.
I love that.
Like, the Utah State game is going to be an 11:45 a.m. kick. Might be a little tougher to get the atmosphere going in there. But night game, this is a team that beat you last year. Revenge game.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see a packed house.
Okay. Well, to add on to that, I just more of a question for you. If they blow out Georgia State and Utah State going forward,
yep.
Where do you see Vanderbilt? Do you see them as a top 15, top 10 team?
It depends on what happens in front of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, if they take care of business the next 2 weeks and make it look easy against Georgia State and Utah State. Yeah. Like, let's say they win
by 30.
Yeah. 35-10 in one of them, 42-14 in the next one, something like that. I think they'll be a top 15 team minimum heading to Alabama. And I don't know if they'd get game day down there for that one.
I think LSU would be the game day here in Nashville.
I would love that.
How crazy would that be?
I would love that. Let's see. Week 6. What are some other big games that weekend? Miami, Florida State. That's in Tallahassee. They are going to Miami, Florida this weekend, which there's been a lot of talk about that. I'm not so sure that was the right choice.
Yeah.
Vandy, Alabama, those are the only ranked games currently on the schedule for week 6. So there's a chance that week 6 game day could be in Alabama for Vandy and the Tide. If it doesn't go there, I think it would be tough for Vandy to get it here for LSU. Georgia, Ole Miss is that weekend. Oklahoma, South Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama. Like I think it would be tough, but it would be a lot of fun.
I don't know, man. That doesn't sound appeasing to me when it comes to Oklahoma and.
Well, if Vandy beats Alabama, they're coming here. Like I don't think there's any doubt about that because
sure.
Vandy would be a top 10 team in the country at that point.
They would be. They'd be like 8 or 9.
Yeah, if you're 6-0, and they'd have a bye week too to get ready for LSU. I know we're talking in hypotheticals here, but I do just I want to put it out there. Nashville, rally around this team. You've got a great football team playing out there on West End. Go and show some love this weekend. It's 4 days away. Chance to go get tickets. Do it. Night game as well. So should be a good environment. I think Utah State's the one I'm worried about. I said this yesterday. I think Vandy's going to
slip up.
No. I think Vandy's going to crush Georgia State.
Okay.
I was going to say.
I got you.
After last year, that's a game that they may have overlooked a little bit. And I think Clark has that team locked in, especially seeing that logo on the other side with Georgia State. They're not overlooking this one. I think they're going to rock them and get to 4-0. Utah State is the one that I think would give me a little more pause. They've been solid this year so far. They just put up 49 on Air Force this past weekend. And it is like when you get past the first tune-up game, maybe you let your guard down a little bit of like, oh, that one was easy. This one will be fine. Alabama's coming up the next week. That one worries me a little bit more. This week, I think Vandy's going to keep the pedal to the metal.
I love it. Jake Lyman called to action.
I'm calling. There we go. I called Brian Callahan to action. Go get a big win on Sunday. Saturday, I want to see the Vandy faithful out there in droves at First Bank Stadium. That'll about do it for us here on the program. Nick Frazier, thanks as always.
It's always fun.
Starting to become a Tuesday tradition of having Nick Frazier on. So always great to talk with Dr. Crane. Again, tomorrow, Corey Curtis from News 2 is going to join us for the full show. And again, if you were wondering where TD is, I know we advertised Tuesdays at the beginning of the program. Thursday, TD will be with us Thursday. So excited to have Teron Davenport with us as well. Chase and Big Joe are coming up next. You're on 102.5 The Game.